we asked specifically how recent inflationary trends how are they impacting your metal purchases? And, I don't know if it's surprising or not. Nick, you tell me. 40% say it really hasn't had any impact. Whereas the significantly to slightly increased, just at about 10, collectively, 13. And then you got we'll call it 33 to 35% saying that it's impacted decisions, decrease their purchasing decisions. So that they're purchasing less, but it seems like for the majority, it's not really having an impact. Would love to gauge what you think of that, Nick. Does that kind of jive with what you're seeing?
As I'm thinking about the last 2-3 years when we did see this massive inflationary cycle, I will say that business conditions over much of that time period were so strong that it really did seem like customers were willing to pay most any price that was out there, whether it be for a commodity good or for the finished goods. Money was out there, money was being printed, and people were feeling pretty good. And I think a lot of that just was getting passed through. So I sort of understand that a little bit. I think when we look at the next biggest answer, the 35% of slightly decreased, I think that makes sense. When that's what I would have expected, that as prices go up and up and up, you would expect at some point it begins to bite. And I think we are beginning to see some of that bite. And I would also argue that we're getting into conditions now that as inflation is coming back down, some of that's due to the fact that people are buying a little less. So it is kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy a little bit. And I don't want to brag too much for our marketing team on this, but I had a sneak peek to look at some of the other questions and answers that were given. It's really good information. And what's really impressive about it is, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mike, it was around 1,000 respondents that we got answers from. So, you think about some of the other manufacturing surveys that are out there. This is one that's becoming a pretty good barometer, at least for the metals perspective it's called the metal perspective, for the metals perspective of the manufacturing side of things. So it's a pretty cool thing to kind of be I don't want to say we're the arbiter of truth within the metals industry, but this is certainly a good broad swath of the industry.
I appreciate that, and I think you're right. The insights we're getting, we asked everything from how are you what's the state of manufacturing right now, and what are things, how's onshoring and supply chain disruptions. So yeah, as we get further into the results, I look forward to kind of digesting those with you, Nick, because I think there's some pretty interesting stuff here.
Yeah, looking forward to it, and anything I can do to try and get you a Christmas bonus as well.
Thank you.
With that being said, as we're on the topic of inflation, there is some fairly encouraging signs that are going on in the inflationary trends. This is showing the headline CPI, which is going to be the blue line at 4%. And then headline CPI is going to be the white line at 3.2. Core CPI is going to be at 4%. Again, the main differentiator between those two is core inflation would exclude food and energy. So as you may expect, with energy prices having come down pretty substantially in the last couple months, we are seeing the headline number actually exceed to the downside the core number, which does not include that energy component. But that being said, both of them are generally trending the same direction. We're still above the Fed's goal of 2%, but we are creeping that way as we sit here today.